£84 million worth of cuts from a £285 million base budget over 3 years. For those that don't know where Haringey is, because Haringey is not really a place other than, it's got the same name, different spelling as the middle ward here. It's made up of Tottenham, which I'm sure you've all been very familiar with over the last 3 months. And then you've got Highgate, Muswell Hill and Hornsey in the west. And as such, it stands actually as the United Kingdom's most unequal borough in the entire country, the greatest level of inequality. So people, and what you're seeing here actually is energy consumption. And you can see this energy consumption in the west. The deeper the blue, the higher the energy consumption. And then the whiter it is, the less energy consumption. Now for those that realise that obviously with wealth comes higher energy consumption, that's a map of the wealth in my borough, and a real very distinctive map of that level of inequality between the west and the east. I think this has been a massive shock to people, even within the Green movement, and within the sustainability groups in Haringey, because it feels so unbelievable. But actually when you work it through, it's so obvious. And I think the question is, when you're looking at that £84 million cut, what is the response of politicians? And I think actually you can come up with clever models and you can come up with great cooperative solutions, but these people in the East have absolutely no social capital, or very little levels of social capital. And to be able to get these sorts of schemes away that you get in Oxford and Lewis, and they're great schemes, and we have a very similar sorts of schemes in the West, but actually get away across the whole borough, it's going to take market intervention by government bodies. And that's why we're absolutely passionate in Haringey. And while we've seen authorities neighbouring us taking their foot off the gas in this agenda, we've kept our foot to the floor, for want of a very kind of inappropriate metaphor. Now, the reason why we've done that is not because we think we can save the planet in Haringey, single-handedly, but because we see an economic goal, very much in terms of the heart of what we can do, an economic prize at the very heart of what we can do, and economic catastrophe if we don't take action. If you read the Stern report, he cites the cost of climate change, unmitigated and unchallenged, at 5% of global GDP. So if you compare that to the economic recession we've just been through, that was 1% of global GDP and 5% of our national GDP. And that tells you that recessions are asymmetric in the way that they hit nations and equally asymmetric in the way they hit communities. So if you want to get an idea of what the future might look like and how it might further impact on inequality, I always cite the case of New Orleans. And it's not to say that Katrina was caused by climate change. I'm not a scientist, I don't know that. But what I do know is that since 2005, the population of New Orleans has decreased, so it's now only a quarter of the size it once was. And you can imagine that the people left behind are those without the capability and means to move, and those that left behind are those without the capital, either social or real, to move elsewhere. And you have pockets of New Orleans which are 50 or 60% unemployment. And that is the kind of future of this world unless we start to take this agenda seriously. It's the kind of real cost that councils will face unless they start to take it seriously and show real leadership. And I think, when we talk about the New York Declaration, I really hope that there's some tough measures. Because the chance and the time for councils to say, yeah, we're interested in green, well, that actually doing stuff has got to go. It's time for the green movement to become heart and centre of the core economic and social politics, political debate of our time, because it is. It is the real economic deficit facing this country, that unless we start to take action now, between now and 2020, we'll be facing real inordinate costs that make this deficit, that the Chancellor likes to talk about, really perfectly manageable. So what are we doing about it? That's the why. We're there to tackle inequality, and if we can create solutions, I hope to create a green economy that will lift people out of poverty, lift people out of that deprivation, create jobs, and without rising emissions. We're one of the lowest carbon boroughs because we have these levels of deprivation. I guess we don't want to be seeing those emissions rise as we rise prosperity, we see regeneration get away through Tottenham. But I think the question is, that's the why, so what's the what? Well, one of the first things that we did was to agree in July a £15 million programme to install solar panels across our social and our corporate estate. That lies in tatters today because of decisions made by this government over the weekend. And I think if he's talking about inordinate profits, for that £50 million investment, we were looking at £200,000 a year return. That doesn't sound like mega bucks to me. And we were going to use that £200,000 to create seed funding to get the rest of our other projects away. So I don't know what we're going to do yet, but I'm absolutely committed that we will not be wavered in terms of our commitment to the challenges that we face, and we'll look and see whether we can still get some of those panels away. I would say, I'm being honest in this room, those panels aren't the core of delivering carbon change. but they're a massive signifier to people that the council's serious and that they should be doing something about the energy. To give you an idea of what the scale of that project was, had we got it away, it would have doubled London's entire solar panel generation capacity. So it was big, and it would have been extremely visible, and I think it would be a massive loss by this government's decision. On the positive side, and on the horizon, the real prize is the Green Deal. And I'm still unsure whether the Green Deal will be workable for local councils, but actually, again, you heard Greg Barker this morning talk about the consortium, and I'm very reliant on my neighbouring boroughs to come on board and to deliver a council-based programme, again, that will create jobs, reduce fuel poverty, and deliver the very strong foundations of a green economy in Haringey. My problem at that stage is the size of that enterprise at its full potential looks like a £1 billion revenue organisation, which coincidentally is the same size of revenues I deal with in my finance portfolio for the whole council. Now, councils aren't there to be that involved in green. So at the moment, our involvement is to stimulate, to intervene and to create. An arm's length or even further organisation, community-owned organisation, that will exist and that will go on and deliver for the people of Haringey and potentially other boroughs in North London. That's why we've created Haringey 4020, which has its own microsite, which is a community-led organisation which has its own steering committee, of which I chair as a lead member currently, which I think is, the start of probably the first municipally started but future community-owned organisation that will deliver the solution for the people of Haringey. Because the last prize, and the really big prize, is actually to challenge the big six and the monopoly. Because actually, when you look at the market, it's a market that is bust. The distribution model of energy is wrong, inefficient, outdated, and if we were to design an energy distribution model today, we wouldn't start with where we are now. And those big six suppliers have absolutely no interest at all in changing their model of distribution. It doesn't suit them, it never will, and again that's why the change in effect's quite damaging, because again it re-perverts the market in all the wrong ways and in all the vested interests. I see the future very much being in decentralised energy. Arup have helped us produce a mapping tool to show how we get that away. Enfield and ourselves are extremely excited, Waltham Forest again excited, about how we can get a decentralised energy network from Edmonton all the way through the east of Haringey, right down into potentially the Olympic Village and through Waltham Forest. And that will be ground changing. The idea that instead of having your own boiler, we'll have community boilers generating electricity, pumping hot water directly into people's homes, is a massive prize. And a massive prize that says we can take that revenue and spend it on the people of Haringey and on further carbon saving initiatives, rather than it going to the profits of privatised industries, and actually at prices that will alleviate fuel poverty for those people who are deprived. That's our vision, that's what we're working towards. I'll keep on getting the logs chucked at me by this government, but we'll venture on. And that's pretty much it. I'm really happy to take questions, and thanks very much for your time.